There is no way around it. I know you on Thursday morning when it was hard, right? Because it went viral. You're like, well, where do I find it? Well, you fucking type it into YouTube.
I didn't say where I found it. I went right to YouTube. It was
You
bam,
know,
right
but I just mean it was pretty. You type it in, boom, came right up. I just sometimes on the weekend, if I'm laying in bed at like 6 a.m., I can't sleep on Saturday or Sunday morning. If you notice on Golf Channel, the European tour is often on really, really early. It's pretty clear right there in London. They got those guys to do this event. It looked completely normal. I mean, there were some additions that I know that you were tweeting about last week about the scoreboard looked like F1, but in terms of just the presentation, I thought it looked pretty good, didn't you?
Well, key is you get some European voices to do the thing, so it sounds like golf, right? Yeah.
You agree though with the cameras on the shots? I mean, they had shot link.
Pretty good. I mean, it looked. I don't know if it felt quite as big, but having the shot tracker, shot link was good.
I'm not comparing it to like a major or whatever, but just in terms of a regular PGA Tour event, it was much closer than anyone wanted to probably. It was anti them. It was a win for them, I would say.
Yeah, that's the short way to put it. It was a win. I liked that they had the leaderboard up the whole time, because how many times do I watch golf and I'm going, I got to go on my phone to find out who's in seventh, like where somebody is, what the leaderboard is. So I liked it. I don't.
You like that F1 thing? How they like jump when a guy goes?
Yeah, I didn't quite understand everything that was happening, but it was the first time I watched it. So I'm not blaming them necessarily for me not understanding everything. One thing that confused me was at the top it would say like 10 holes left, and then it would say 11 holes left. And I'm like, wait, why did it just change? But then I realized it was because they were jumping from player to player, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think
some people
right?
are probably a little fat. Well, they all start at the same time, right?
Shotgun start. So the abbreviations on some of the names, some of these guys I had never heard of. So I hope they enjoy their time because they're getting replaced soon, right?
Yeah.
You and I, we were texting about that. We both had the same
I did see a lot of Phil and a lot of DJ and a lot of like Graham McDowell and Sergio.
Which is
they were riding the hits.
Yeah, which is fine as long as those guys are playing well.
Phil looked pretty good today. What I watched on Thursday.
I thought 7 months off.
How great was his tan?
How about Phil? Like, did he swap out vests from like a blacked out Augusta National vest, and then he took it off? What was that about?
Oh, he did take off.
Switch vests. He switched to a different vest.
Was there a chance they got a call that they're like, you cannot wear that right now?
Why can't he? Who says he can't wear that?
Well, if you're Augusta, like you want to, you're still feeling it out.
Oh, just like, hey, Phil, do us a solid. And Phil respects Augusta enough to take it off.
The number one thing I saw this morning when they first teed off was like, is Phil wearing an Augusta National logo on the vest?
Yeah.
I mean, that shocked a lot of people.
Yeah.
And was that like an FU at Augusta? Like you told me I wasn't allowed to come, or was it like I'm a champion? I don't know. There's a lot going on, guy.
Did I see Riggs tweet that the PGA released its press conference schedule for next week, and Phil is the first person up on Monday?
What do you think about their move of suspend every single human alive indefinitely?
It feels to me like the NCAA going to court, the famous Alston case that ultimately the NCAA wanted to prevent all NIL. They go to court and it just blows up their whole business, where I think it's a bad move. I think you got to recognize something's changing here. The more you resist, the more power you give LIV. Your hope actually for them to somehow peter out is to let guys play your events too, and just hope that they run out of money or something. Whatever happens.
How are they going to run out of money?
Well, I don't know. But the point is just, or that it's just not worth their time. Whatever. I don't know. I don't know how it would fail, but things fail all the time that start out with a bang. So I think the point is restricting. It's like a fire. Trying to restrict their oxygen only helps the fire burn faster. And I think it's a mistake.
I sometimes listen to this podcast. It's about golf betting. It's called the Tour Junkies. They had on Danny Woodhead. They're friends with Danny. So they had him on just to talk about LIV. And one thing, one of the guys that hosts it told Danny is he was at like the Byron Nelson earlier this year. And he was like, I'm on the range. I started bullshitting with a veteran player. And we started talking about it. And Norman had pitched this guy. And this guy told him in the pitch, we have $100 million earmarked just for court. We are ready for all you guys. Because DJ resigned. Kevin Na resigned. Phil did not resign. He said, I've worked my entire life to be a lifetime member. I'm not resigning from the tour. So Norman told Norman didn't want these guys to resign. He's basically saying the Saudis gave me $100 million just to start with.
Why would you resign? What's the case to resign?
Because you then, if you don't resign and they suspend you indefinitely, there were some questions about your pension, about your ability to get into majors. I think I read something that Kevin
just got paid 150 mil, but I'm worried about my pension.
Yeah, but even at Kevin Na, they got like $30 million. Just like, I don't want to go to court. Like, you just don't want to deal with it. You're just kind of. I think a lot of the older Euros did it. Phil, on principles, like, I spent 25 years helping build this brand. Under no circumstances, if you play 15 years on the PGA Tour and have 20 wins, you're exempt for life. Phil can get in any tournament for life. So Phil's like, I'm not giving up. Same with DJ. DJ, though, I don't think wanted to fight. But ultimately, they'll fight for him, right? Because Phil's going to sue.
Yeah. I would be shocked if the PGA beats these guys in court. And I don't think it's in their best. It's not in their best interest to. I think they're in a really bad spot right now.
Well, to me, it's not even about the Saudis or LIV or any. How do they? If you and I think media falls under this category. For a guy that does play-by-play, and when you had radio shows, you did the Kings. Like, the great part about being in the media, you can do a lot of different things because, for the most part, I guess sometimes like you're a full-time guy with the radio station, but they always let you do the other things. The PGA Tour is so adamantly against, like, you have to only do one thing. It's not going to hold up in court. They're going to lose. Like, they're not going to win. And I think Norman knows it, and they have the financial backing to fight it. Like, my takeaway, honestly, Thursday morning watching that thing, I think the PGA Tour is fucked because I think a lot of guys that didn't make the initial jump with DJ and Phil, which I give credit's the wrong word because they might have got a combined, $350 million. But it did take balls for two rich guys that didn't need to do this, for being pioneers to do this. Once you saw the visual of YouTube, and think about half the PGA Tour didn't go to Canada, right? So what a percentage of players, top 200 players on the PGA Tour clicked on some LIV today on YouTube? 100%. Don't you imagine when they know about the money, because a lot of them have been offered money, but when they saw the presentation, they realized, like, this doesn't feel rinky dink. The logos are bad, but the presentation was. But the presentation of the golf, right? I saw one shot. DJ teed off. It looked like 10,000 people were lined up. Now, again, It's Europe. Maybe 10,000 might be strong. Maybe a couple. There were a lot of. I thought there were a lot of people there. Again, it was DJ and Phil teeing off hole one.
Yeah, I think, like anything, the real test comes over time. Like, I think a lot of it went well. Like, I'm with you. I would be terrified if I were the PGA, and I don't think fighting this is the right move if they're going to save their business.
And when you say fighting, you're like underselling what they're doing. Like, they're waging war.
Yeah, and I just don't see. Now, there are going to be some of these lower level guys, I think, ultimately, that are participating in LIV are going to get kind of pushed out because more people are going to see that there are going to be no repercussions, which is good for LIV. Yeah, the weekly draft, that whole thing, I don't know. Like, if LIV is successful and we revisit what LIV looks like in 5 years, are they still doing team golf and the draft and these weird team names? I don't know, maybe.
But isn't part of a startup, like when you and I started this, we just threw a lot of different pitches. We tried a lot of different
shit. 100%. And that's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to differentiate, like, what worked if we evaluate week one, what didn't. I thought the team names to me could work if you don't ever change the teams, if you're not redrafting them every week. But if you're changing the team names all the time, nobody knows who the chasers are, who the chuggers are, who the Mac Daddies are. And that's like, if I got to relearn that every weekend, it's not working for me, right?
Well, you had a good idea, and I saw you on Twitter say that, like, the problem with going Team Phil or Team DJ, which is very easy, Team Sergio, is that eventually you can't sell hats and stuff. It's much easier with, like, high flyer, the logo of it, if it becomes the 49ers, the Lakers, whatever, right?
But are these names changing every week, or it's the same captain with the same name, he just drafts a new team?
Well, the captain's, like, are they giving Bryson $150 million to not be a captain? Right? He doesn't have a team yet. I would think he's a captain when he moves over. Patrick Reed going to be a captain? I saw that.
What is Bryson's team name going to be? What's he going to make up?
The meatheads? Proteins? I don't know.
The algorithms?
But you have to, like, I listen, I guess it would have happened midweek last week. that it was announced. Maybe it would have been Wednesday. Like Adam Schefter was tweeting about. I would say Bryson was the first. I mean, DJ was a big deal. I think Bryson was an earthquake for the PGA Tour. Do you agree with that? Like that losing him. Now that he's been rumored, but he denied it. He said,
even though he's been a non-participant here for a while, it feels like he's in his prime. Even is Dustin Johnson in his prime?
No, he's older than us.
Yeah, like that's like Bryson needs to win majors for his golf legacy. Like the PGA's counting on you caring about legacy and caring about the tournaments. Again, I think this LIV thing is working. If another thought I had watching, what are things that could keep it from working? Like, will the golf be as competitive? Will the money is ridiculous, right? Like, I think first place wins individual $4 million, and then the winning team splits $5 million. And how many guys are on a team? 3?
4.
F1 would argue like, hey, the team thing works. Like their graphic looked very much like F1. They just name their teams after their sponsorships. So maybe they get big enough where the sponsors do come flooding in.
Team McDonald's,
team Titleist, and that's just and so maybe like I could see the team names become maybe ultimately that's what they want, and that would be cool. I mean, if you had told me before F1 was a thing, like everyone's just going to be buying T-shirts that just say
Ferrari,
which I mean, it's hard. Ferrari's like a
McLaren,
brand. I mean, but somebody like Red Bull, I'm just wearing a Red Bull hat. Like what? Why are you wearing a Red Bull hat? But I mean, because it, and I think that's a very valuable thing to brands. Like my brand is now a team. Holy shit. Because F1's the same deal, right? They got a couple, it seems like they copied F1 in a few ways, and it's foreign to the way the American sports mind is, but it works.
I don't see how if you peeked at it, even if you just spent 5 minutes and once you know like how much cash they have, and you don't say to yourself, this has a legit chance.
Yeah. So
you and I always push back against the AAF, against the USFL, against the Tokyo League. Like this is not, you watch this now, granted, again, Phil Mickelson is, what would you say, top 5 famous golfer of all time. Like it's a big deal getting him.
Yeah.
But you just watch the presentation, more guys are coming. And my first reaction was like, this has got a real chance. This is real. I guess what I'm saying. This is real.
Yeah. And you tweeted this, and you're right. You might have said this already here. YouTube is fine. YouTube works. YouTube's good. YouTube's a good place to put your content, so they don't necessarily need to be on NBC. That's part of being a renegade. It's like you are doing it a different way.
But also, once they get big enough, won't those people want them?
Well, 100%. Yes. But to them, it's going to be like, so, and ultimately you don't pay them to take it. Like they pay you to come. So, but if they have to give any power up, they're not going to want to do it. At this point, it's not about making money. Now, YouTube, they might have to have a conversation with YouTube. Like, YouTube, we're going to need you to be taking a smaller cut of this ad rev.
Well, if you had to guess, how many networks have tried to woo Pat McAfee over the last year? All of them? Or a decent percentage of them?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even see. It'd be pretty hard for the conversation to go very far, because it'd be like, wait, it's going to cost us what? It's not. It doesn't pencil for them to pay him $30 million to come to ESPN, right?
But what's his answer? I would imagine always too. Like, no, I'm not interested. Like, I don't need you.
Right.
You don't matter to me.
Because guess what? On YouTube, you know who calls you to tell you, we didn't like what you said today? Nobody.
Not a soul. If you
have big advertisers, I guess those people could complain about. Once you get big enough, there's always going to be, right? Like an advertiser could be offended by something you said, and then they call you. But it's not your boss. It's just, okay, then you decide, am I willing to say this for this advertiser? What I was going to say, though, the one thing I wonder about, right, is every sport really benefits from the fans being able to see the pressure that the competitor feels, right? So knowing, and you put enough money on the table, a $4 million putt's a big deal. But what if second place just pays like 3.5?
It does.
That's what I'm saying. So that's less pressure. Like the one thing the PGA has is it's pretty well established to everybody where the pressure is, like which events have pressure, how much pressure the players feel to win those particular events. Is everyone getting paid so much for every event in LIV that there's really no pressure on anyone? That's one question I have.
So your point is like when Mito pumped in the water, anyone watching knew what was on the line when he did that.
Yes. And he felt pressure. Do any of the players feel pressure in these LIV events, or is everybody so rich for that weekend that it's like, whatever? you know,
Is
that's
there a chance by event 2,
like
Dustin's
nobody,
bored?
the Masters, the money never comes up.
No, it doesn't need
It's
to.
not about the money. What'd you say about Dustin?
Is he bored already by event
Well,
1?
that's one thing I wonder. Like, are you getting their best? Are like that is one thing that could stand in their way. But
Well, I do think
very
one thing when you're a high level guy and you've been competing at the level that those guys compete, I would say this works for any industry. You ultimately embarrass yourself if you don't try. Like when I watched just Phil this weekend, I would imagine he's been getting ready for that. Like he wants to do well. Like you don't want to, like we were supposed to play golf last week and we had to move it this week because of Kyle Shanahan moving some shit on us. You end up thinking about playing. You just like, I'm going to hit balls. I'm going to do something. I don't want to just show up and not play. It's human nature. So
yeah.
And the other thing is, I would say the bottom half of the field, think how much money that means to them. Like not everyone got 100 million. Some of these guys got the younger guys got 2. Like you're going to get there. They're going to give you everything they got.
And you're
think what Taylor Gooch is thinking.
And he's all one thing he's thinking is like, this better work. Cause in their world, it's like, maybe the PGA, if this thing fails, then what do I do? I don't want this to fail because I don't want to have to go back to the PGA and beg them for my tour card.
Well, if PGA Tour does win, it's basically the equivalent of like, if you leave right now, this is over. And you walk out the door, but then 3 weeks later, you come back and be like, I didn't mean it. Right. And they're like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Which I don't think anyone, I've seen a lot of lawyers get retweeted and stuff. No one thinks the PGA Tour has a chance to win. So did he just take his huge swing, just hoping that would rattle a group with unlimited money? That's what I don't understand.
Let me ask you this. If nobody else left, if only the guys that have left and have said
they'd be fine.
They'd be okay. So he's trying to scare everybody else into not going.
But
because I think it'd be bad for LIV if they only ended up I do think they need more. They need Joaquin Neiman and they need more of those types of guys. Because those types of they don't have to be DJ. You need you need the Morikawas, the Neiman. That's who you need.
When one of those happen, I would say American, a true Colin Morikawa is going to LIV, right? Or something like that. People would be like, it'd feel like the PGA Tour was done, wouldn't it? Because that guy would truly, Gooch is the closest. He's 30, John Rahm. And I know all these guys.
Morikawa's won a major.
Yeah. Two.
Yeah.
Which I'll be honest, guy, my other takeaway was it feels inevitable that that's going to happen if they don't crater, which I don't see them cratering.
Yeah.
But, so did the USFL thought that once upon a time in the 80s with Steve Young and Reggie White, and then they created. But it's completely different, right? Because they just have the money.
I think they can coexist.